C++ provides a special multi-way conditional using the switch statement. Here in Xcode, I've opened a working copy of working.cpp, and I'm going to set up a switch statement here. First, I need to define some constants. Switch requires constants for its selection. You'll understand this in a moment. Start with an integer, and I'll call it I1, and I'll just make a few of them, and I'll name them 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then I'll also define an integer variable. We'll just call this x. We'll give it a value of 3. And now the switch statement, which looks like this. It requires an expression to switch on, and so I'll use x for that. And then it requires constants for its case statements, and we'll have one for each of our constants. So I1, and the statement for that will just be a puts 1. And I'll just copy this and paste it. And so how this works is like this. It takes the expression in the parentheses next to the switch, and it compares it to the constants in the various case clauses. And so in this case, it will equal the constant for I3, because I3 is equal to the integer 3. And so it won't print this one, and it won't print that one. It will print this one, and it won't print that one. And for the default, we'll just put something in here for default, so we can also demonstrate that. Now, when I build and run, you'll see that it'll display the number 3. And if I change x to, say, 2, and build and run, it'll say 2. If I change x to something else that does not equal any of our constants, it'll display the default. And this is a very straightforward way to select between a number of different values for a given expression. The argument that's used with case must be a constant. It can be a constant variable in C++. C has exactly the same structure, but it doesn't allow a constant variable. It has to actually be a literal value. And the way that it works is it'll actually simply jump to the case that is selected here. So for example, if I make this 2, it'll jump to the 2 and it'll continue executing until it gets to the end of the block. You notice the braces here, or until it encounters a break. Break is a special statement in C++, it also exists in C, which will break out of a block. And so when execution reaches a break, it simply goes to the end of the block. And so in this case, we have a 2 here. It'll execute all the code starting with the I2 label up until it sees a break. So if I take this break out, it will actually execute both the 2 and the 3. So I'll run this, and you get the 2 and the 3. It's usually very common to have a break after each clause, but sometimes you might want more than one selection to be valid. So I may have one here for 2, and I may have one, let's say, for 20. And so if I make one here for 20, and I'll have this just say 2 or 20, and I'll put in another case here for the 20. This is also a common way to do this. And so when I run this, I get 2 or 20. And if I change my x to 20, I also get the 2 or 20. So switch is actually pretty simple. It uses the case clause to select, and it uses the expression in the parentheses next to switch to do the comparison. So this multi-way switch control can be very handy in cases where you need to select a condition from a list of possibilities. The case statement needs a constant, so you need to take special care to use the proper type of constant for this purpose.